Hello, what's happening, everyone? So, I just wanted to do a little video before my radio show here, which could be seen right here on whatever channel you're watching. YouTube, Normal America with Rob Noor, D Live at Normal America, Twitch.tv at Normal America with Rob Noor, or Periscope at Robert Noor. I wanted to do a little teaser of what our show is going to be about and why you should watch today. So, we have been covering a story. I'm just periphery on this. I don't have any specific knowledge because I'm not from the area, but my two co-hosts, Todd Bartley and Carlos Saldivia, are from Williamsport, PA, and there's a story. Williamsport's the home of Little League. There's a story that they've been covering for over 2 years, or around 2 years, and that story is that there was an incident with the baseball team where two kids allegedly were sexually assaulted. There was videotape of it, and it's a story of corruption, of people that are mandated reporters to report when children are endangered like this, covering it up because some of the players that allegedly did this were connected to school officials in the town, and it's quite a story. It's, if you're like me and you're an outsider, you don't know the specific names of the people, it seems confusing, but it's a story that's relatable to our country as a whole because it shows how people in power can become corrupt. And even more than that, it shows how a complicit media can allow that to occur and how actually having one good journalist like Todd could actually do a lot of good to seek justice for the victims. This is something that we could use in our real world as well. All it takes is a few good journalists in this sea of propagandists that are covering up the truth for the powerful so that the people could actually see how corrupt their system is. And then what's more is it's also an example of how we see that people that are actually in a position in their personal life to do something to actually help the underprivileged, such as children, which are clearly people that need help, that are not as privileged as us adults that can find mechanisms to fight back. When children are endangered, and we see this all through our country right now, exploitation, sexual exploitation of children and how it's being ignored. When this happened, the people that were there that were supposed to seek justice for them not only failed those children, but then they started saying things like Black Lives Matter to get out of it. It's the story of our country. It's the story of what we see happening. Everything about this story is insane. What we have new to report this week, and I don't want to speak too much on this because it's Todd's story. Todd had been threatened for reporting this story because there is the potential for seriously powerful people in the city of Williamsport to end up facing criminal consequences. And Todd had been threatened before because of this. I talked to Todd Saturday and asked, because the implications of this story, people's lives are going to be turned upside down, deservedly so, if they're charged criminally for what they did and allowed to have happen to these kids. And I said, do you feel threatened? He's like, yeah, I get threatened all the time. Monday morning at 4 a.m., an incendiary device was placed under Todd Bartley's car, under his gas tank, in an attempt to blow it up. Literally a bomb. And they lit his car on fire. They lit it up. Now, luckily, no one was hurt, but this was right at Todd's home. This was where his family lives, and they're attacking him. And the fallout from this is unbelievable for what's happening in that town. Here you have a story, and I'm not making this up at all. You have a story where a journalist is exposing corruption at the highest levels of his town. And not only is he being ignored, not only is he being threatened, he actually had his car bombed. This is something out of mob days. It's incredible. And I've known about this story all week. I didn't want to comment on it because it's Todd's story, but he gave the go ahead. Our show today then will be 2 hours of discussing this story. Now, we might get to a little of the DNC convention, but if you tune in, it's not going to be a big national story. But I think it's intriguing. First off, this will be a national story. It will. When it comes out, when the people start to get investigated in a public manner by state officials, as opposed to the local officials that turned a blind eye to these sexual assaults and the covering up of them, it's going to be a national story. It is a story of corruption that is one of the most incredible riveting, disgusting stories that I've ever heard. Now we have a journalist car being firebombed. The only journalist in town that'll cover the story. It is an incredible story. Todd is a great guy. Todd, look, I am more biased than Todd. But he's like a pit bull. He's actually in a position of being a journalist. Todd is the only journalist in Pennsylvania that called out Tom Wolf on his hypocrisy. Tom's the only journalist that's asking Secretary Levine the same questions you heard me ask about COVID. He's the only one. But he does so he's not going in like me, like yelling and screaming. He does so in a professional manner, gives them a chance to respond. For someone like him to have to go through this, for his family to have to go through death threats, people firebombing their property because they're trying to seek justice and report on a story where 2 underage kids were sexually assaulted and everyone in a position of power in that town has covered it up. It's truly amazing. So if you tune in, that'll be the story. There won't be a lot of national politics, but my job will be not only to help Todd facilitate that story, because you have to understand, Todd's so involved in this story, it's hard for him to understand that most of us don't know the players. We're not from that town. We're not from Williamsport. So I will keep trying to bring it back to you, the audience, of what this means on a national scale. How this is indicative. What's happening to Todd in Williamsport is happening in towns all over the country. Maybe not to that extent. But the idea of the most virtual signaling of us that are shouting things like Black Lives Matter, covering up crimes of the most underprivileged being sexually assaulted. That stuff's happening worldwide. And we need to understand when we see a specific story that so correctly illustrates it. And, you know, the Black Lives Matter people, the peaceful people, they're loving and caring. Somehow that side, someone from them apparently, who's worried about this story being out, it looks like firebombed Todd's car. So tune in for that. I think it's incredible. And it's going to be 2 hours. And if you have questions during it, you could type on my chat wherever you're watching right now, and I'll make sure Todd gets those questions. But it's truly, truly, truly an incredible story. And I'm worried for Todd. I am, because when you're talking about officials that could theoretically be looking at jail time, people with power that could be looking at jail time, I'll leave Todd talk to the likelihood of that. They're not going to go down quietly. They've used harassment, intimidation. They've sent law enforcement to the home of some of Todd and Carlos. And now there's actual firebombs being used. So it's truly an incredible story. And I think that Todd's also a likable guy, and he's funny, and he's smart, but he's professional. And I think it's inspiring, and I'm honored to work with someone who actually takes journalism seriously and won't back down. And that to me is the most impressive thing about Todd. In this world where, in his profession, 95% of the people go one way, and he's saying, no, I'm just going to speak to the truth. And Todd will tell you, he'll ask hard questions of Republicans too. He doesn't care. And to see that, when you actually have a good journalist stand up, what happens? They're attacked. So I think it's an amazing story, and hopefully you all tune in. So it's going to be at 11 a.m., so that's an hour and 12 minutes. Carlos will be calling in, but he won't be doing the show, so we'll have a guest host today as well. So it'll be me, Todd, and that guest host. But yeah, I think that you'll really enjoy the show. It's unbelievable. It is an unbelievable story. Literally, you live in a time when a journalist is imagine like the Catholic priest scandal, or imagine the grooming gangs in the UK. Imagine a journalist trying to uncover that, and they're getting firebombed and they're getting harassed by the local police. That's happening today. That's happening right now. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the lesson learned for me is, if you're truly committed, if you truly want to do what's right, it's not the easy path. Any of us could go online, could go on our Facebook page and say, Black Lives Matter. I care about these people. But when your family's being threatened and you still persist to help victims, the most vulnerable of us, kids that have been victimized by sexual assault, that's what truly makes you have character. The just path is often not the easiest path. So tune in for that story. I think it'll be a good story. So, okay, I'll see you all in like an hour and 15 minutes. Thanks so much for being with me. And like I said, we might get to a little bit of the DNC convention and stuff, but I mean, this story deserves a lot of time, and the life of my co-host has been threatened. It's incredible. So, all right. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. See you at 11. Have a good one.